Colleagues, this is the voiceover for Module 2, Needs Analysis. It is the second module in a range of modules that helps policymakers with the knowledge and skills they require for preparing policy-making strategies. We have already presented Module 1, which is about defining and understanding what policy is. The remaining modules go the whole way through to presenting examples, monitoring and evaluation, designing strategies, consultation processes, and now in this one we're looking at needs analysis. We hope you find this useful. On this slide you will see a list of the partner countries involved in the DIMA project. They are Cyprus, 2 partners, and 1 partner each from Ireland, Slovenia, Slovakia and Belgium. For more information on the project and the partners, please visit the DIMA project website. In this module, there are 2 particular learning outcomes. At the end of this module, learners will be able to identify and describe 2 suitable techniques for conducting a needs assessment. While there are a wide range of techniques, we are focusing on 2 practical and appropriate techniques. At the end of this module, we also expect learners to be able to demonstrate a capacity to undertake a needs analysis in their context. As this module applies across the European mainland, contexts will differ. So the content here should allow you to adapt to your particular context. We have to look at what is needs analysis. It is defined as a formal process focused on how a product addresses the needs of a human. In this case, the product is a strategy for policy making. So how does the strategy for policy making address the needs of people? In adult education, it is a formal process conducted to provide data about the needs and gaps in adult education and support the selection of the best solutions to address these needs. In the previous module, we talked about policies being designed to respond to problems, demands, or needs. We also talked about the importance of identifying the most suitable or best solutions. So the needs analysis process needs to be able to find what is the best by being able to clearly identify the needs and gaps in the current provision. It is a process used by organizations or the state to determine priorities, to make organizational improvements, or to allocate resources. So it is a vital process in the functioning of any system, such as the adult education provision system. The needs analysis process is composed of the identification and analysis of needs. Therefore, it requires the appropriate diagnostic procedures. We are going to look in relative detail at a procedure for needs identification in following slides, and this is outlined in more applied detail in the toolkit that accompanies this course and these slides. During needs analysis, the identified needs are evaluated according to established criteria. This is important because all needs identification and analysis needs to be benchmarked against some established criteria. Noel suggests that this process is analogous to screening needs through various filters. Therefore, the general aim of needs analysis is to provide data, quantitative or qualitative, but preferably mixed, about the needs and the gaps between what is and what should be or is intended. So we are seeking to present to you a means by which we can bridge that gap between the current and the intended. This is a very important step in authentic policy making. So the aim of needs analysis is to bridge the gap between what is and what should be. In this graphic we've broken it into 3 parts. Under what is, it is about identifying the state of the company, agency or country at this present time. What should be suggests it is about what will be the company, agency or country targets, what standards it wants to achieve. In terms of what it is, it's about identifying what is the existing knowledge and skills of employees and citizens that make up that society. As against that, it is about what should be the knowledge and skills of employees and citizens, particularly as our society continues to modernize and the skills and knowledge required for active citizenship change. It is also about identifying the current performance of individuals, performance in the sense of the quality of their lives, their opportunity and skills for engagement, the services they receive and the services they render. This is measured against the targets or performance standards that are expected and required for an optimally functioning society. Adult education is about bringing people to a stage where they can achieve the best outcomes for their lives. Therefore, in a changing society, we need to identify the standards and targets that we would wish to help people reach. These are 3 important stages in needs analysis. Needs assessment or needs analysis is a process which consists of several steps. We have depicted these steps in a similar format to the steps in policy making. We suggest there are 5 steps in the cycle of policy making. We suggest there are 5 steps in the needs analysis process. The first step is problem definition, defining what the actual problem is. The second is selection of the target group. We will discuss this in more detail in a later stage when we talk in detail about how a sample is selected. The third step is the data collection and analysis. This will be discussed in more detail, but it is important that data is collected in the correct way and then analysed to give the appropriate outcome, because that leads to step 4, which is how is the data utilised for decision making. Step 5 is the evaluation of the process. Module 7 discusses monitoring and evaluation in detail. So this module will not spend much time on it, but the evaluation is key to the effectiveness of the other stages. We suggest there is no one correct need assessment model or procedure, because everything depends on the particular needs of the organisation or country. As this toolkit is applicable across the European continent and beyond, it is important that policymakers are able to adapt the needs assessment to their particular culture, society, and resource availability. Needs analysis is about finding the gaps between what is and what should be. We will refer to this in more detail later. The needs assessment process requires a procedure for data collection and analysis. The collection of this quantitative and qualitative data, indeed what is quantitative and qualitative data, is discussed in much more detail in Module 2 of the DIMA Toolkit. You will find the link to that toolkit in the references attached to this module. We suggest also that you refer to Module 3, titled Stakeholders and Consultations, to review a wide range of means of collecting data and engaging stakeholders for a needs analysis. So we have identified that the steps in needs assessment is defining the problem, selecting the target group, collecting and analyzing the data, using that data to make decisions, and evaluating that process. You will see that this cycle of needs assessment reflects the cycle of policy making. Indeed, the number of steps are the same as we have presented them, because policy making follows closely on the needs analysis cycle. Let us look in more detail at each of the steps. Step 1 is problem definition. That is the exploration, identification, and definition of the problem. For this step, it is required to determine what the agency or country already knows about its own needs, particularly in this case in terms of adult education. So we're looking at, does the agency or country know where it is in terms of adult education provision, and has it set its standards for where it wants to be? A wide range of policy documents and strategy documents and academic documents will be very useful in this process, and drawing on OECD and European sources is very helpful. So step 1 is to identify the factors that impact on problem solving or meeting needs. That is defining the data and the need collection objective, and prepared a detailed specification of all the relevant data that should be collected within the needs assessment process. This is a step of detailed planning. As examples, at an organizational level, it may be to identify data to help guide, plan, and improve organizational learning environment practices. It may be to identify data to measure or track a student population's learning goals, performances, and achievements. It may be to identify data to help identify students' population needs. At national level, it may be to identify data on the motivation or the barriers to adults taking part in adult education, and to understand the barriers to increasing participation rates. It may be identifying data on national adult education provision and how it fits with the needs of the labour market or with citizen society. Step 2 is target group selection. In this step, it is recommended to select a sample that would be relevant to the range of needs identified in step 1. Why? Because it is not possible to assess the needs of a whole population. Resources will not allow us to do that. However, social science methodologies have well-tested sampling procedures that are statistically accurate in projecting the needs of a total population. So it is possible for us to select a target group, and it is possible for us to use that target group as a sample for the whole population and to be able to identify the needs relatively accurately. As examples, at an organizational level, it may be a specific group of learners or types of learners who are selected and samples taken to identify their needs. At national level, it may be a broader selection. It may be learners such as migrants, mature students, citizens who are already participating in adult education. Taking these sections of the population, identifying samples of them, and using well-tested needs assessment procedures to collect the data, to present the data, analyze it, and then to project if this is appropriate for the whole population. This is a primary research source process. The third step is data collection and analysis. Data collection enables us to better understand the gaps between the current state of the organization or country population and its desired future state. In other words, to identify the needs. So we have to plan the most appropriate data collection approach. There's a range of ways in which data can be collected. Internally from records, that is a desk research process, or externally using market research techniques. The data collected can be quantitative or qualitative, but preferably both. The toolkit contains more detailed definitions and descriptions of each quantitative and qualitative type of data. But simply, quantitative research asks how much. Qualitative research asks why, or what is the reason. One complements the other, but have different characteristics. The purpose of quantitative research is to gain measurable data and measure the relationship between cause and effect. Sampling obtains statistically reliable results. Quantitative research methodology requires representativeness of the population. The purposes of qualitative research, as you will see in Module 2 of the Toolkit. Qualitative research can be done through individual or group interviews, focus groups, projective, association, finishing, construction, and expression techniques. And its purpose is to determine the cause, the why, of an examined issue. Qualitative data are collected to either complement quantitative findings or indeed vice versa, where quantitative may be collected to complement qualitative data. This table presents to you the characteristics of qualitative research and quantitative research. we look at each under the heading of objectives, selection, data collection, analysis, and outcomes. You will see the objective of qualitative research differs from the objective of quantitative research. You will see that the selection process, identification of samples, is not the same for each. You will see that while there is some overlap, there is also a difference in the ways in which the data is collected, and there is difference in how the analysis is done. The outcome will be that qualitative research will help us in understanding the problem, whereas quantitative usually focuses on recommending a definitive outcome or procedure. At the end of this step, step 3, which is complex, it's useful to summarize collected data and identify the major findings. What is the problem or issue? What information is currently available? What information is needed or should be available? To analyze the gap between what is available and what should be available. To analyze the barriers to achieving the desired future state. And therefore to analyze the needs. Step 4 is utilization and decision making. The outcome of the data collection may suggest a plan of action, because the goal is to develop a plan to lessen the gaps between the organization or country's desired future state and its current state. To implement, the organization or country needs to set priorities, identify and evaluate possible solutions, apply some form of a cost-benefit analysis, select one or more solutions for each area of need, formulate a plan to implement the solution, and allocate the resources necessary to implement that solution. Here is an example of a checklist that can help in deciding the utilization or decision-making capacity of the needs analysis. In this checklist, which is drawn from the module in the toolkit, a number of questions are posed, the outcomes are suggested, and possible solutions are open for inclusion. Questions like, do the educational programs meet the requirements of the labour market? Yes or no? What are the possible solutions? Does the profiles of the adult learners meet the requirements of employers for particular job positions? Yes or no? If no, what are the possible solutions? Is there a system of quality evaluation of educational programs? Yes or no? If no, what are the possible solutions? Checklists like this are very useful for guiding our tools in needs analysis. Step 5 is evaluation of the process. The organization or country needs to evaluate the results of its needs analysis process or its action plan. The question is, has the action plan placed the organization or country closer to the desired future state? We are not going to delve into the evaluation process in detail in this module because Module 7 specifically focuses on monitoring and evaluation. Please refer to that module for more information. There will be a set of slides later on, but the toolkit has the detail that you will require to delve more deeply into monitoring and evaluation. We have arrived at the end of Module 2. We've presented an overview of needs analysis. These slides complement Module 2 in the toolkit. You will find more detail, a signpost to further useful materials in relation to needs analysis, and a checklist to help you. We hope you have found this useful. Thank you very much.